With me here today are some very special guests to make some March Madness picks. On my right, this is Robbie Triano. He's a sports editor of the Grand Valley Lanthorn. You know me, I'm Arpan Lobo. That's D'Angelo Starks, both After the Whistle and the Gen and Gelo Podcast. And Paul McPherson of After the Whistle and the sports director for both GVTV and Whale Radio. All right, guys, so let's make some picks. All right, so I'm going to get us started off in the East region where we have one seed Villanova looking to get back to the national title game, champions 2 years ago. I'm going to have them beating either LIU Brooklyn or Radford, playing in the first four to see who gets to take on Villanova. In the second matchup, it's a really intriguing game between Alabama and Virginia Tech. I'm going to take Alabama for one reason. Colin Sexton, what he's been doing at this point of the year has been great. I think he'll be able to make Alabama competitive with just about any team in the country. In the next matchup, I'm going to take Wichita State over Marshall. Love me some Wheat Shockers. In the next matchup between West Virginia and Murray State, I'm going to take West Virginia. They play in the Big 12. That's a bit, it's a competitive conference. No disrespect to Murray State, but in the next matchup, it's Purdue versus Cal State Fullerton. Purdue kind of lucky to get the 2 seed. They may be the third best team in the Big 10 this year. I don't think they should have got 2 seed, but I'm going to pick them over Cal State. Then with Arkansas and Butler, I'm actually going to go with Butler, the 10 seed. I like Arkansas, but I think Butler will be able to pull the upset there. I'm going to take Texas Tech over SF Austin, Stephen F. Austin, sorry. And then in the last round of 64 matchup in the region, I'm actually going to take St. Bonaventure. They do have to play UCLA in a playoff game or a play-in game, but I'm going to take the St. Bonds to go there. All right, back up at the top. I did say Colin Sexton can make any game in the country competitive, but I'm going to pick Villanova just because I think they have the more talent overall. They're not just a one-man show. All right, in the next game, we take the Wheat Shockers of Wichita State. And this region isn't the most daunting for Villanova, but I think Wichita State will be able to meet them in the Sweet 16. All right, I'm actually going to take – here's my first upset pick of my region. I'm going to take Butler. I think Purdue, when it gets to March, they don't have that, X factor. I like Isaac Haas. I like Dakota Mathias, but I'm going to take the Butler Bulldogs. And then in the next match, I'm going to take Texas Tech. Sorry. Ooh. All right, on to the Sweet 16. Now, Villanova is a very good team. I think Wichita State could push them, but I'm going to pick Villanova to get to the Elite Eight. And then everybody loves a Cinderella, but Butler, I'm sorry. I'm going to take the Red Raiders of Texas Tech to go here. All right, and then in the Elite Eight, to get to San Antonio, I'm actually going to say Texas is going to have some home court advantage. Texas Tech, Texas Tech going to the Final Four. I'm going to have them coming out of the East region in 2018.
All right, so I have the Midwest bracket here, and in my opinion, I feel is the strongest bracket of the 4 regions that we have, highlighted by Kansas, Michigan State, and Duke. So let's start at the top. Kansas is going to beat Penn. Sorry, Ivy Leagues, you're a bunch of nerds. Kansas is going to win that one right there. Then we have Seton Hall versus NC State. I'm not too familiar with both of these teams, but I'm going to pick NC State here. That's the one I'm most familiar with, and I think they have the best logo from what I can tell. Auburn. They're an easy pick here. SEC was really dominant this year, so I'm going with the Auburn Tigers. This is my first upset. Even though I said the SEC was really good, I'm going to pick New Mexico State University over Clemson. Upset. Next, this is a team I think most people hate. We have Duke versus Iona. I don't know how to pronounce. Duke's going to win the game. Doesn't matter about the other team there. Grayson Allen's shooting threes. He's going to trip everybody. Game right there. Next, we have Rhode Island versus Oklahoma. Now, this is, I think, one of the most interesting games because Oklahoma has been playing like hot garbage lately. But they do have the best player in Trae Young, the most Steph Curry-like player of them all. I'm going with Oklahoma here, but I really think that's as far as they're going to go. And then we have my hometown, Michigan State Spartans. They are going to beat Bucknell. That's going to be an easy game. No upset, no mid-Tennessee here. They have the most talent, I think, out of this region. And then, you know what? Let's do another upset. I'm going to pick the winner of Arizona State or Syracuse to beat TCU. Both teams are pretty, good, so I'll pick them. Next, let's move to the round of 32. Kansas is going to beat this one pretty easy. I do not think NC State is that much of a challenge to them. I know I love New Mexico State. I've never been to New Mexico. Seems like a fine state, but I'm going to pick Auburn here. That seems like a pretty easy one. Now, I said Trae Young was the best player. I'm still going to pick Duke. I really love what Duke has done this year. Marvin Bagley, Grayson Allen, Coach K, undeniable. And then Michigan State's going to beat them because Michigan State, I love them. I love Michigan State. All right, Sweet 16. This is pretty crazy. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. No upsets early in this region because I think this is the most top-heavy region of them all. Kansas is going to win that first game against Auburn. And this is where, my heartstrings are a little torn. We have Duke, and we have Michigan State. Sparty on, baby. We're going Michigan State. They're going on. Sorry, Grayson Allen. You just got tripped yourself out of the bracket. See you later. Last one, Michigan State's going to the Final Four. That's what I'm going to say. I might be a homer for that. They have the most talent. Cassius Winston, Jaren Jackson, Miles Bridges, Coach Izzo. Boom.
What's up, guys? It's D'Angelo. I am going to be taking care of the South bracket today. We got the number 1 overall seed in the tournament in this bracket in Virginia. They take on a school whose mascot is the Retrievers in the first round. Give the win to Virginia. That's all I got to say. Creighton takes on Kansas State in the second round. That could be an interesting 8-9 matchup, but I like Creighton. They're gritty. They've got some good players. I'm going to take Creighton to win that. And as the 4 seed in this bracket, you've got Arizona taking on Buffalo. DeAndre Ayton carries them on. Arizona wins that one. And the next matchup is actually kind of interesting as a 5-12. It's Kentucky and Davidson, a team that's very hot, won their tournament. But I think Kentucky's a little bit too talented for them, so I'm going to go with Kentucky to win that one. And number 5, you have who's or at 2. Yeah, I said number 5 because I saw that 5. Okay, just whenever I'm ready. Okay. And the 2 seed in this bracket is the University of Cincinnati. They play really tough defense. It's a 2-15. I don't think it's going to be. There's not going to be an upset. Cincinnati wins this one. An interesting 7-10, Nevada and Texas. Texas is okay. Mo Bamba's projected to be a lottery pick, but I think Nevada's going to win this one. As the 3 seed in the South, we have Tennessee. I don't know a lot about Tennessee or Wright State, but I'm going to pick Tennessee. And then number 6, Miami takes on the University of Loyola Chicago. Our friend here at After the Whistle, Joe, is going to be really mad at me for this one, but I'm going to take Miami to win it. And the first matchup in the round of 32 in this bracket was going to be Virginia versus the 8 seed Creighton. This is an interesting matchup for Virginia, but Virginia is really tough on defense, one of the best teams in the country. I think Virginia is going to move on. A very intriguing one here with Arizona and Kentucky. I don't quite think Kentucky can hold up against the best player in the country, in my opinion, and DeAndre Ayton. So once again, I think he's going to propel them into the Sweet 16. Then we have Cincinnati versus Nevada. Cincinnati's a tough, gritty team on defense. I don't think Nevada can hold up with that, so I think Cincinnati's going to move on. And in this game, Miami might be without their best player that hasn't been announced yet, so to be safe, I'll go with Tennessee. Here you have probably the best 1-4 matchup in the entire tournament, in my opinion. Virginia's a loaded team. I don't think they can stop Arizona, so I'm going to go with Arizona to move on to the Elite 8. And this matchup, I am going to go with Cincinnati. I don't know a lot about Tennessee, like I said, and I know that Cincinnati, at the very least, plays very, very good defense. And in this one, I am going to continue to take Arizona. I just think they're the better team. They're very well coached, and I see them making a Final Four run this year.
All right, I'm here with the final bracket. We have the West region here. Now, it starts out with potentially the weakest number 1 seed in the tournament in Xavier. A lot of people have been saying they're not even the best team in their own region in Xavier. This may be the weakest region in general, full of teams, with teams like North Carolina as a 2 seed with 10 losses. A bit of a weak bracket, some might say, but also is very competitive in that aspect. So starting out with Xavier versus NC Central versus Texas Southern. Whoever makes it out of that game. Sorry, Musketeers are going to win that one. Again, as RP mentioned earlier, congrats on even making the tournament. You get an opportunity, opportunity of a lifetime there. Next game we have Missouri versus Florida State. Now this is a tough one because Michael Porter Jr. could be starting with the guy who's been starting in his place suspended potentially for the game. But I'm going to go with Missouri. They're a team that has beaten a lot of the top teams in the SEC. Their big losses have come to actually low teams in the SEC. So playing a good team in Florida State, I'm going to give it to the Tigers here. So next up, we have Gonzaga and UNC Greensboro, the reigning national runners-up in Gonzaga. They're not as good as they were last year, but they're still a good team. They're one of the hottest teams in the country right now. This is a big theme in this bracket. There's a lot of teams riding big win streaks. I'm going to give the win to Gonzaga here. They have a lot of momentum coming into this tournament. Now, moving on, we have The Ohio State University and South Dakota State. Now, this is a really big matchup. Ohio State's been struggling a bit down the stretch. Meanwhile, they're playing South Dakota State, another one of those teams that's one of the hottest teams in the entire country. And the Jackrabbits have the 6th highest scoring team in the country and one of the best players in the country that no one talks about in Mike Daum, who averages 24 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, and shoots 42% from 3. I'm going to take the Jackrabbits in this one. I think they're going to upset the Buckeyes here. First, get the 12 seed, moving on and take on Gonzaga. Now, moving on to 2 versus 15, UNC versus Lipscomb. I mentioned UNC is a team that has 10 losses but is a 2 seed. I still think they're going to win. The reigning national champions are still fantastic. They're an amazing rebounding team. So I'm going to pick the Tar Heels here. And now moving on to Texas A&M and Providence. And Providence is another team that has ended the season really hot, playing very good basketball. I'm going to pick the Friars here to beat Texas A&M. I think they're a very good team, and they can honestly cause some issues for North Carolina in the next round as well. Now, moving on to my hometown team and the Michigan Wolverines. They're taking on Montana. Montana's good, but Michigan's playing fantastic basketball. I know they had the week off from the conference tournament being the week before. However, I'm still going to go with the Wolverines here. I think they're just a fantastic team. This is probably the best coaching job that John Beilein has had in his tenure here at U of M. He's done an amazing job with this team. Now, Houston and San Diego State, and this is a very interesting one because Houston is a team that has been very good to end the season as well, but San Diego State is riding a 9-game winning streak. They ended the season hot. They won their conference tournament really out of nowhere, and they're playing phenomenal basketball. I'm actually going to go and pick the Aztecs here to upset the Houston Cougars, and I think they have a great team. And again, the NCAA tournament is all about streaks, and these are that's a team that is streaking in the positive direction going upwards. So the 1-8 matchup, Xavier versus Missouri. Michael Porter Jr. is not up to where he needs to be from his injury still. I'm going to go with Xavier here. Trayvon Blewett is an incredible player, maybe the most underrated player in the country, the least talked about big name in the country. Next up, we have Gonzaga and South Dakota State. And this is where things might get interesting because, again, 2 extremely hot teams. Gonzaga with a 14-game win streak heading into the tournament. South Dakota State with 11. 2 incredibly high-scoring games. This is actually a rematch of a 1-16 matchup from the year before. I'm actually going to pick the 12s here. I'm going to go with South Dakota State to pull off an upset and make the Sweet 16. I think they had just so much scoring on their team. And again, a 6'9" big who can shoot threes like Mike Daum can. I think they're going to pull off the upset over the Zags. Now, North Carolina and Providence. I already said I think the Friars can give the Tar Heels a run for their money. North Carolina is an extremely streaky team. They have 10 losses. They are amazing when they're on their best. They are not very good when they're on their worst. I think they're going to pull out the win here. I think they're going to go and play well against Providence, so I'm going to give it to the Tar Heels, but that should be a very good game, one of the most competitive round of 32 games, I think, in the entire tournament. Now going down to Michigan and San Diego State, and I got to go with Michigan. They're playing phenomenal basketball. Yes, San Diego State is hot. So is Michigan. Both of them have big winning streaks heading into the tournament. And I think just the way that Mo Wagner is playing, the way that Marr is playing, on top of that, the defense of Xavier Simpson is phenomenal. Now, heading on to the Sweet 16, Xavier and South Dakota State, I think this is where it ends for South Dakota State. I think Xavier is going to pull off the win here, get the win. Trayvon Blewett is a beast, 19.5 point a game player. Another player shoots 42% from 3. I think Xavier is going to head on to the Elite 8. And now, this is probably the toughest game for me to pick, North Carolina and Michigan, because this is a game that could go between my head and my heart here. I'm going to go with the Tar Heels. I really want to pick Michigan. North Carolina already beat Michigan this year. So great job by North Carolina to play as well as they have. And if they keep that streak, they can go and beat anyone in the country. Now, finally, we have Xavier and North Carolina. And again, another really tough matchup here. I'm actually going to go and pick against what a lot of people would think. I'm going to pick Xavier. I think Trayvon Blewett is an incredible player. He turns it on when March starts. He was incredible in the tournament last year, carried a 6 seed in Xavier really far in the tournament with his great play. I think he's going to do it again here in March this year, and I think Xavier is going to go to the Final Four.
So our Final Four is actually a pretty interesting group. We got in one matchup we're going to have Texas Tech taking on Michigan State. In the other matchup, we're going to have Arizona taking on Xavier. So, guys, I'm going to go around here and see. It's a really interesting field we have this year. How did you guys come up with your picks? So you had Xavier, right?
I had Michigan State.
Michigan State. My bad. All right, so you have the Spartans. How'd you get there?
I just really think this is the year for them. In terms of talent-wise, they have it. This is probably their best class that they've had probably ever, besides Magic Johnson. So I feel like this is kind of a team of destiny. If they don't win, I just don't know what's going to happen to their team in general. People say Izzo's on the hot seat. I don't really see it, but it could happen.
Yeah, and then in that matchup, which they would have against Texas Tech, if we were all right, I don't know how close that's going to be, but if they were to play Texas Tech, the reason I went with Texas Tech is because as much as I think Villanova is the best team in that bracket, Paul brought up a great point. It's about who's hottest, and I like the way Tech has been playing. They have been kind of up and down. Villanova has dropped some games they shouldn't this year. So I think Texas Tech, while they might not be a strong favorite, I think they could get out of there. And plus, I'm a bit superstitious against picking 1 seeds after I picked all 1 seeds last year. So anyway, D'Angelo, how did you get to Arizona?
All right. I'm going to admit something that I am a huge DeAndre Ayton fan. I think he's going to be the #1 pick in the NBA draft in this upcoming year. After the ESPN report about them offering money to DeAndre Ayton, and it's seeming a little bit sketchy now.
He's worth it though, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's a bargain.
100,000,
yeah, easy. I think they're gonna play with a chip on their shoulder, and a dominant big man like that only comes around every so often. I think he can carry that team past all the teams in his region.
Plus, we get to see Sean Miller get really sweaty in the Final
Really
Four.
sweaty. If he finally makes it to a Final Four, I can't even imagine how sweaty he'll be.
Anyway, Paul, you picked against Michigan, who you said is one of the hottest teams in the country, but you're going with Trayvon Blewett and Xavier. So how'd you get there?
I remember how well Blewett was last year in March, and he really turned it on, and he was, he carried a team in Xavier that not a lot of people were even, picking to get out of the first round as, the higher seed, and went and carried them really far in the tournament. So I think he'll do the same again this year. Again, North Carolina, I think, is probably the best team overall, and I think they'll carry them in wins over teams like Michigan. However, I just think that that could be the game that they go and fall apart. And again, if Trayvon Blewett plays as well as he does and shoots as well as he can, I could definitely see Xavier coming out of their bracket. So.
All right. Well, the madness starts this week. Playing games are Tuesday and Wednesday, and the round of 64 starts Thursday and Friday. So I hope you guys all enjoy the madness. For Robbie, me, I'm Arpan. That's D'Angelo. That's Paul from Maitland and Savannah, and the rest of the crew. This has been After the Whistle. All game, all season, always on After the Whistle.